So I grew up in a haunted house and I never really talked about it. At the time, I was at the house between the ages of 12 and 16. My parents had gone through a divorce and my mom bought a house that was right next to my grandma's. We were really excited to move in and kind of just start over. And it was a nightmare. Of course, we were excited to move in next to my grandma. That meant we would be able to see her every day if we wanted to, which was really cool. We even had like a fence put in around the backyard with a gate between our property and our grandma's property so that we could go over there. She could come over as much as she wanted. And we were really excited. The house was built in the 1900s, like early 1900s. And at the time, I didn't even think ghosts could be real. Like I never even really given it any thought at all. I was super into like horror movies with my sister, so we would always watch like paranormal movies, but to us, like that's all it was. It was just a movie. Like we'd never think that we would ever be in a situation where we had to deal with that. And I've kind of talked about this a little bit. I wrote pretty much like our whole story on Medium like 4 years ago. It actually did really well, but I've never like openly talked about it online at all. And that's always been something that I've like wanted to do because especially now growing up, there are so many people who experience like very similar things. And I don't know, it's just nice to talk about it with people who aren't going to think you're crazy. So my parents divorced when I was 10. We lived with my grandma for a little bit after that with my mom and my sister, and it was just us. And like we moved around a little bit, and then when I was 12, my mom ended up finding the house for sale right next to my grandma, and she was my best friend, so obviously we were very excited about that. It needed a lot of work, and it was kind of small, but it was just so exciting to be able to be that close to my grandma. Like we didn't really care, and maybe that was a mistake. I don't know, but basically the layout of the house, it was relatively narrow and really long. It was technically a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, but it had a full attic that came to like a point where we could technically use that for another room, and that's what we ended up doing. So when you walk into the house initially, you are in the living room, and it's kind of off to the right, and then there's a hallway that goes straight down on the left, and it goes straight back. As you walk down the hallway, you'll reach the first bedroom on the right, and then the kitchen is like slightly after that. The kitchen is kind of just like a little pocket, and then to the right of the kitchen is the basement door. And I hate that door, and I'll explain why, but like after you go past the kitchen, you go to the right a little bit, and there's the stairs to the attic. And again, that was just one big open room that came to a point. Past that was the other room, the second room, which was technically a garage at one point that they'd converted into a bedroom, so you like had to step down a little step to be able to get into there. At the very back of the house, right past that, was the laundry room and the back door. So it wasn't a huge house. It wasn't super it obviously wasn't very nice, but we tried to make it the best that we could when we were there. So right away we were super excited. I remember going to see it with my mom and my sister and having some strange feelings about it, but also just being so excited to start over that I kind of let those strange feelings move to the side. Walking through the house, nothing right off the bat felt weird at all. It seemed pretty normal, like a lower class house that needed work. But there were like pockets in the house that felt really cold. And I kind of just convinced myself that it was because nobody had been there for so long, or whatever. I don't know. Like the heat wasn't on, the AC wasn't on. I don't know. I just didn't think anything of it. And there were some strange smells like walking through it. But again, like nobody had been in there. I was thinking maybe it was just like a little dusty. I don't know. Like I wanted to see what the basement looked like, and I remember walking to the basement door, and the door was like super old and had like a skeleton key doorknob, super old doorknob where you would literally put a skeleton key in to like unlock it, lock it, whatever. And I don't even know, I don't think we had the key, like it never even actually locked, but I remember like being super drawn to the basement, and I don't really know why. I just wanted to see what was down there. And the basement, when you open the door, the outside of the basement door was like a normal beige color, I'm pretty sure, when we first moved in, and the inside of the door though was painted like pastel, like kid colors. And like normally for like a normal finished basement, like I wouldn't have any real issues with that, but the basement was not a livable place. Like, so not only was the inside of the door painted pastel colors, but like the wood wall on the right side was also painted that way, and it had scratches like up to the door, like straight out of a scary movie scratches. And like I walked down there and the steps were like broken concrete, and like the ceiling isn't finished, there's cobwebs everywhere, and like it's a dirt floor basement. Like I like completely not finished. To be honest, I don't really know why it was there in the first place. Dirt floor basement. The walls they were like concrete and had like holes in them. The only thing that I can think of is like maybe they used it for storage. Like I don't know what you would even want to store down there because it was so gross. But the breaker box was down there, so that sucked because if the power ever decided to go out or a breaker tripped, that's where we would have to go to turn the power back on. And the light that was down there was a pull string light, like literally straight out of a scary movie. There wasn't a light switch, like that's not how it was. And so right off the bat, like looking at the inside of the basement gave me the heebie-jeebies for sure. Like it was not habitable for a person, let alone a child. So I did not understand why the inside was painted the way that it was. Like initially I thought, oh, maybe they flipped the door around or something, and like that was the outside and it was like a really colorful house, whatever. But like the inside of the basement going down the stairs was painted that same way, and it was gross and there were scratches and it just didn't make sense. And from that point on, I did not go down there ever again. Like I tried with all of my might to never have to go down there. It was just scary. It was just super scary for a kid. Like, I don't know, it just really freaked me out. So that right off the bat, I didn't feel good about. I don't know who owned it previously. From my knowledge, it was a rental. So I don't know. Hopefully nothing bad happened down there, but I don't know why it would be painted that color otherwise, you know? So moving on past that, nothing else was really that strange about the house upon like our first visit. We were really excited when my mom closed on the house. We decided to stay there like on an air mattress. We were just really excited to like have a bigger place than what we were currently in. So it was me, my mom, my little sister who's 2 years younger than me. We had 2 parakeets, 3 cats, and 1 toy poodle, and his name was Charlie. That's who we were moving into the house with. Upon closing on the house, we painted the inside of almost every room to make it kind of feel more homey to what we wanted it to be. I claimed the like garage converted room at the very back of the house, and I regret it, but that's the room that I wanted. My sister wanted to be in the attic, which I am not sure why. Technically it was the biggest room in the house, but it was like it came to a point, and I guess she was the smallest out of all of us, so maybe like it didn't bother her, but it didn't feel good up there either. And then my mom got the like first room that you would enter in from like walking into the hallway from the house, and like there wasn't like a master suite or anything. All the rooms were like the same size, except for the attic just being like the full length of the house. So we painted everything. The bathroom was pretty rough, so we had it completely remodeled. Like they tore out the shower, tore out the sheetrock, and like put new stuff up, completely remodeled it, which was great. It needed it. And so for reference, my bedroom was right across the hall from that bathroom, and then the back door was like right past my room. And I at the time was like in an emo phase. Like I was battling with depression, anxiety, a bunch of stuff. My parents had been divorced. I wasn't super confident in myself or who I was, and was just having a lot of problems in general, like a lot of problems that I feel like most teens go through. Mine was probably a little bit more on the worst end of that. I had to be on like some different types of medication to handle my emotions, but Regardless, I was like an angsty teen, whatever. It's embarrassing to even think about now, but the only hobbies I had were like playing video games. So I was super into Guitar Hero at the time, and I couldn't even actually play guitar. So I don't know what the deal was. I don't know. I was just so quirky and cool. I'm different, but whatever. I painted the outside of my bedroom door with they weren't waterproof paints, but they were just acrylic normal craft paints. And I painted a guitar, I think because I was so into Guitar Hero. I don't even want to think about it. It was so cringy, but I painted a guitar on there and eyeballs around it. Not really sure why. It was just creepy to me, and I liked creepy things, and so I don't know, I was just trying to make my room what I wanted it to be, and looking back, that was a mistake. It's so stupid looking. The inside of my room I painted pink and black checkers, big checkers, and it was an emo girl's dream room. It was so stupid, but I liked it, right? So whatever. I think it was the first night after I did that, I went to bed in there. And I prefer to sleep with my bedroom door closed. I don't know, I just have anxiety about break-ins. I've literally never had a break-in, but I'm still that way. I'm so worried about it. I went to bed that night, and I can't say I'm somebody that has vivid dreams a lot, because I'm not. A lot of the time I don't even remember what I dreamt about. That night I had a dream that something crawled on top of me in my bed and pushed its claws into my eyes, and I could feel it. It was so painful, and obviously my eyes were bleeding, and then I woke up literally sat up and couldn't breathe for a second, and it was so weird because I mean it when I say I don't have dreams like that. I've watched a lot of horror movies, a lot of scary movies, a lot of stuff like that, and usually the dreams will correlate to something that I've seen in a movie. But I hadn't watched a horror movie in a bit, and even then, the way that I woke up was not super normal. I don't just sit up that fast and breathe in air really fast and not be able to breathe. It was just a really weird feeling. But the dream felt really real, and I was freaked out. So that morning, I got up, opened my door, and the eyes that I had painted on my door were bleeding. And I know that this sounds ridiculous, and this is why I didn't talk about it for so long, because it sounds like I'm making it up, but legitimately, the paint had dried by the time I'd gone to bed. I had that dream, and I woke up, and the eyes, the paint from the pupil of the eye had run down all of the eyes that I had drawn on there. Run like blood. And they were dried like that. And I freaked out, and I yelled for my mom, and she came and saw that and thought, I don't know if she thought I was joking or if I was playing a joke on her, but it wasn't waterproof or water washable paint. And we kind of didn't really know what to think about it, and I tried not to think about it, to be honest, because it was terrifying, and I painted over it with just a normal color. I didn't want that on my door anymore. When I was painting it, it's not I had that in mind, oh, I want something creepy to happen, oh, this is creepy. So that happened. Startled me for sure. Definitely not something that I expected to have happen. But regardless, we're living here now. I need to figure it out. We need to just not think about that. So anyways, I get up and go into the bathroom, and this is that same day, that same morning. I get up, walk across the hall after I've talked to my mom about it. I'm paranoid, but she's well, it's summer, maybe it got too humid and maybe it hadn't dried yet, and it just kind of melted a little bit. And I was okay, and she calmed me down a little bit. So I was okay, maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I was a kid, so who knows, I don't know. I'm gonna believe whatever my mom says. And I go into the bathroom to start getting ready for the day, and I look in the sink, and in the sink, brand new remodeled bathroom, there's a tooth. And it's not just a cute little baby tooth, because I thought, okay, my mom saved our baby teeth from when we were little in these little containers, whatever, as a keepsake. And I thought, my first thought was that's what that is. But I'm why would that even be in here? That's packed away. That there's no reason for that to be here. But let alone it wasn't a baby tooth. It had a root on it that was pretty long. And I screamed. I felt I was gonna pass out. I freaked out. I called for my mom, called for my sister. They came in. It was just us there. It was literally just us there. That should not have been there. I wasn't missing a tooth. My mom wasn't missing a tooth. My sister wasn't missing a tooth. And so I looked down and I'm dude, what the hell? Okay, sorry, had to move filming locations. My boyfriend came home from golfing, so Anyways, after I had woken up and saw that the paint on my door had run and that I'd gone into the bathroom and found the tooth, I was thoroughly creeped out. I didn't really know what to do at that point. I mean, this was a new house that we had just bought. Like, what can you even do? Like, you're stuck for a while now. And my mom thought, well, that's an old house. Maybe it just came up out of the drain. And that's what I told myself for the like remainder of that day. I just kind of thought, well, maybe she's right. I don't think that happens, but I think that she was trying to like convince herself also that like nothing else was going on. So my sister and I spent like a good majority of our time at the house alone for various reasons. But my grandma being next door would come over unannounced all the time. With that gate being in our backyard, connecting her yard to ours, it made it really easy for her to just like walk over and check on us or hang out or whatever. And she did that all the time. And I mean, she was like our best friend, so she was there a lot. And one day, so obviously she's coming through the back door, and the back door has a deadbolt, but she had a key, so she was completely able to get in when she wanted to. And like the first things that started to happen in the house were us hearing the back door open. The house wasn't in like the best area. It wasn't like scary by any means, but like obviously the area could have been better. One day my sister and I are in the living room, and the living room was at the very front of the house and the back door's at the very, very back of the house, and it's like a really long house. So if you hear anything back there, it's usually pretty like muffled. It's not super clear. But however, you can hear the back door open because they have to go through a deadbolt, and there's a screen door on the back that will like slam when you come in. So Courtney and I, my sister, were in the living room watching TV, watching a movie. I honestly don't remember what we were watching. And we heard the back door open. And we didn't think anything of it because our grandma would constantly come in and, you know, check on us, make us lunch, like just hang out. And so we heard the back door open, didn't think anything of it. But then we realized, like, she hasn't said anything. Like, we can't even hear her walking in. Like, she always, like, announces when she comes in. She'll say, "It's me, it's Granny." And we didn't hear that. And like, honestly, probably like 10 minutes passed before we realized that we didn't hear that because we were just so used to her coming in whenever she wanted. And so, I looked at Courtney and was like, "Did you hear Grandma come in?" And she's like, "Well, yeah." And I was like, "Did she say anything?" And she said no. And I was like, "Okay." And I got like a little paranoid because we're there alone. Like, it isn't nighttime yet, but it's still like possible for somebody to break in, and like my mind, that's constantly where I go every single time I hear anything. It's like, oh, someone's breaking into my house. But so I go back there and check, and the deadbolt is locked. The door is still locked. It's not open. Nothing's opened. It's still locked. So I'm like, "You heard the back door open though, right?" And she said, "Yeah." And so I texted my grandma who was just next door, and she said, "No, I've been home all day." And so I was like, okay. Okay, cool. Never mind. And, throughout the rest of that day, we kept hearing that. It's like the back door, like you could hear somebody put a key in, come in, the screen door would slam, and that's it. But every time I would check, the back door was still locked. And so I was like, okay, I think this place is haunted. And like, we didn't grow up in a religious household. It's not like we were ever really taught about like heaven and hell, like God and demons and Satan and like all that. Like, I didn't know anything about that. So like, I don't know. It was never like in the forefront of my mind that this could have been like really, really bad thing. And we thought like ghost hunters were cool. So we were kind of just like, oh my God, like, I think our house is haunted. Like, are we going to be ghost hunters? To a point, kind of excited about it. Which was so stupid thinking about it now. Like, so stupid of a thought to have. So like, along with that, like continuing for like weeks, so some other stuff started happening. The majority of the stuff seemed to happen to me. And I didn't know why. It started out with footsteps behind you. So like, if you were walking from the front of the house to the back of the house, it's like a long hallway almost. It's like as soon as you would pass the basement door, like if you're walking back to the bathroom, or if I was walking back to my room, I would hear footsteps so close behind me. Like, so close. Like, right on my ass. Like, real close. And obviously I knew it wasn't Courtney. She was the only one home with me. And I would turn around, there wouldn't be anything there. And that continued for a while. And I think that's why I'm like, anytime I feel like something's running at me, or I'll like have nightmares where like something's running at me, I'm so scared of that. Like that in movies scares me, but like it's definitely PTSD from like constantly having that happen at that house. And for a while it was all kind of like not like innocent scares, but like nothing harmful was happening. But that changed pretty quickly. It went from like, obviously like my dream was terrifying, right? But like I was a kid, I was on some medications, like maybe my mind was just like hyperactive. I don't know. I wanted to tell myself like that's probably all it is. Looking back, I know that that's not the case now. While we were dealing with the back door opening and closing a lot, hearing footsteps behind you walking through the house, we would also start to hear things upstairs. If you're sitting in the living room, the attic's above you, and that's where my sister's bed was. And we would start hearing somebody like walking from one end of the house to the other upstairs. And at first it was just like light footsteps. And you know, we had cats, so I thought like that's all that is. It would just get more and more intense to the point where it was like somebody was stomping back and forth upstairs a lot. And then it got to the point where it sounded like somebody was dragging something heavy upstairs, just back and forth, like a chest or something, I don't know. And we'd go up there and nothing's out of place. There's no one up there. The cats aren't up there. Like nobody's up there. So moving on, like those things were still happening. It was scary, but it's not like we could see anything. But it was happening daily. It was a frequent thing that we kind of just got used to. Me being the type of person that I am, I'm at the time, and honestly probably even now, if I was in the same situation now, I don't think that I'm bold enough to put cameras inside of my house, because like that was something that my sister thought might be a good idea. My mom thought it might be a good idea. Let's put cameras up and see if we can catch anything at night. And honestly, like even though these things are real and they're happening to us on a daily basis, that would just solidify it more. And I was so against it. Like if something's in there, I can't see it yet. Hopefully I never do. If we caught something on camera, I would never be able to sleep again. So I decided that's not a good idea. I don't want to do that. And we didn't, thankfully. And like obviously growing up, you want to have sleepovers, you want to have your friends over. And so we would. And, you know, we had some sleepovers with friends where like they never came back. They were scared. And I don't blame them. Like, and it's not like we were hiding it from anybody. Like when we'd invite them over, like obviously they already knew the experiences that we were having. I think a lot of people thought that, that was cool and they wanted to come see it, but like thinking that it's cool and that it's happening is very different from experiencing it at like 2:00 in the morning. So these friends that came to stay the night, we'd stay in the attic because that's their request, whatever. We'd all sleep up the stairs. And for one example, I had a friend over and we were sleeping upstairs with my sister and her friends and my friend. And we didn't have a real piano downstairs, but it was just like a keyboard my sister had. She had wanted to learn, and so it was down there. Like it didn't get used, but it was still sitting on its like little stand, kind of by the basement door. And we woke up at 2 or 3 in the morning, hearing the piano playing. And like we have cats, so my first instinct is like a cat jumped on the keys. That's what's happening. And I went downstairs to check, and the piano was a keyboard, so like you have to plug it in. It wasn't plugged in. Not only was it not plugged in, but it had dust on it. Like nobody had been using it like at all. And that friend that was mine that came over, I won't say her name because I don't know that she's okay with me like talking about this. She did not ever come back to my house. We stayed in contact, but like she did not want to stay the night ever again. Terrified. Which I don't blame her. That's scary. But it was like a normal thing in our lives at that point, so we kind of just had to deal with it. Another thing, so like having animals, they're supposed to be like more in tune with spirits or whatever. Like, I don't know if that's true, but we had Charlie, our toy poodle, and then 3 cats that were like full grown. And Charlie was in the hallway past the living room barking. And like that would have been right across from my mom's bedroom. She had her computer desk there with like her computer, and then right past that was the basement door. Charlie was barking at the computer. And it was just us and our friends there at the time, and they were all in the living room. And so Courtney, my sister, went to go see like why Charlie was barking. He's just barking at the computer. So we're like, what are you doing? Like, stop. And as she got closer to the computer turned on and said, welcome, like it normally does. But it was just like odd because nobody had turned it on or anything. And he was clearly barking at it, like something was wrong. And then we noticed that our 3 cats, were sitting in a circle in front of the basement door, just staring at the door. And It was like they were in a trance. And I know that this sounds so stupid and so made up, but I'm a little bit shaky talking about it because I don't really talk about this very often because it's like unreal to me that we lived through this and like are alive. But yeah, so that was strange. And that's something that happened pretty regularly after that point. The cats specifically were very interested in the basement door, and like they were not allowed to go down there because it was kind of scary and wet and like gross. I like later that week, I want to say, my sister Courtney had 2 friends over for a sleepover, and these were 2 friends that regularly came over. They knew what our house was like, and they weren't like not afraid, but they weren't afraid enough to like not come back. So they were too afraid to sleep upstairs because previously one of the friends had been sleeping up there, and they all woke up upstairs to all of the lights on, and the comforter like had been taken off of them, and it was sitting at the foot of the stairs like somebody had taken it off. So they were too afraid to sleep upstairs, so they were going to sleep downstairs on the couch. And it was my sister and 2 of her friends that were their same age. One of the friends fell asleep on the couch, and Courtney and the other friend were hungry, so they wanted to go make something in the kitchen, which wasn't super far, right next to the basement door, just like slightly out of view of the living room. Well, the friend fell asleep on the couch, and they didn't want to leave her like unattended, just because of some of the stuff that had been happening. They didn't want anything to scare her while she was sleeping. So they set up a camera to watch her while she was sleeping, while they went into the kitchen and made like a midnight snack or whatever. Honestly, I don't think they thought they were going to catch anything. It was mainly just to like make sure that she would be okay. I don't really know what they thought was going to happen, but like they went in there, they made their food, they came back and they checked the camera to see like if it caught anything, like kind of just as a joke, like not even like legitimately thinking they're going to find anything. And they see, so the living room's in the front of the house, and then to the left is a really, really long hallway that goes to the kitchen, right to the basement door. And that's where they were, but they were right out of sight of the camera because it was kind of, the kitchen was kind of tucked away in a pocket. So this friend is laying asleep on the couch with her head to the side of the hallway. You can see in the video, like this black mass, like hop down the hallway and land on the friend and just stay there. Friend doesn't wake up. Nothing weird happens. Then all of a sudden it kind of just floats off. And they were in shock and like called me out of my room because at that time I was like, I don't know, I just liked being alone. I was just in my room playing video games. Like I didn't want to be messed with. And they showed me that, and I was very scared because again, I did not want them to put cameras up to catch anything. Luckily, that was the only time that they did that. I think they knew that like that's not a good idea. My sister said she's really afraid of this, like, and then for them to come tell me about it, like obviously I wanted to know, but like I did not want to see that. I did not want that confirmed that like that was a thing that was potentially going to happen again, or maybe that was happening to me, like I don't know. So yeah, that happened. We were still experiencing like noises every once in a while, some weird smells, hearing like footsteps up and down the stairs, and then like with the new addition of that like black mass hopping onto my sister's friend, we were pretty scared. And this is where things kind of went downhill for me and my experience there. So I was at the back of the house by myself, and I always slept with Charlie, our toy poodle, in my bed with me, and my door would be closed because I don't like cat hair and I still don't. So I didn't want them in my room. And my room was like kind of long and narrow like a garage would be. And my bed was tucked away in a corner. I just had a twin size bed, and like on that same wall was a full body mirror, which I know now that's not recommended to have in your room while you're sleeping because it can invite spirits in. And I don't know if that's true, but I will never do it again. Anyways, so that's when nighttime started to become hard for me. After we experienced all of those things, I would go to bed at night very anxious, really, really alert, really have a hard time going to sleep. Eventually, I'd fall asleep, and the first time that this incident happened, I tried to convince myself that I was crazy because there's no way. There's no way. I went to sleep. Charlie's cuddled up next to me. I sleep like in a cocoon, and I still do that. I don't know if it's like a trauma response to this or what, but like I sleep with every part of my body covered. I was trying to go to sleep, so I had my head covered in the blankets, like completely tucked in, right? And like Charlie's not tucked in with me, but he's laying next to me and I can feel him there breathing. And I'm like trying to relax myself, trying like everything I can to relax myself. And I start to hear like clicks, like clicking heels or something walking around in my room. I'm too scared to check what it is. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to see anything. So I do not take the blanket off of my head. I hear the footsteps and they stop at the end of my bed. And then I swear, and I know that this sounds crazy, But like, I'm like shaky talking about it because it's like, I don't ever want this to happen again. And I just feel like maybe holding it in is like not manifesting it to happen again. So I don't like talking about this, but I feel like people are interested and other people have gone through the same thing. So it's really interesting to hear. But so whatever, the footsteps stop at the end of my bed. I feel the weight of like someone's hand go on the side of my foot, and then on the other side, and then on the other side, and then on the other side. Like somebody is slowly crawling up to my head. And it's not fake. Like, it's like pressure. Like there is a person, like the weight of a person pushing down on each side of me, like crawling up towards my head. And as they get to be like I'm laying back and they're like right here, I can't see anything, you know? It just stays there. It just stays there. Just stays there. And I convinced myself that like one of the cats got into my room that night and that's what I was dealing with. So that happened. It eventually, like the pressure of them being on top, like let up, and I was able to finally fall asleep. I was hoping that that would be a one-time thing. That is something that happened almost every single night that I was there. And it gave me more anxiety than I've ever experienced in my life to have to like anticipate that to happen. It's terrifying. So scary. Not something I would recommend, obviously, ever having anybody to go through. Like, it sounds like something out of a scary movie. Like, you don't expect to ever have to go through something like that. It's terrifying. And nothing really ever different happened from that, thankfully. But imagine laying in your bed, like peaceful, trying to go to sleep, already feeling anxious, and having somebody, it feels like somebody's crawling on top of you. Like, that's so scary. So whatever, that happened a lot. And I tried to convince myself that like it wasn't real because my dog wasn't freaking out. You would think that like they would, like, he would bark or something if that was legitimately happening. I was trying to convince myself maybe there's just something wrong with me, like in the brain or something. I don't know. So like as that started to continue to happen every night, it went from sounding like clicks of heels, like I'm talking about like shoes, like somebody's wearing shoes. It sounded like clicks of like a horse. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but like how horses like step with 4 feet. One night it turned into that instead. So instead of me hearing 2 feet walk towards me, I was hearing like 4 hooves walk towards me. At that point, I looked into demons and things that could potentially like attach themselves to people, because at this point my sister and my mom were experiencing our normal things, like hearing footsteps behind you, hearing them upstairs, but nothing was specifically happening to them, especially at night. Like they were able to rest pretty easy for the most part. Like it seemed very targeted towards me, and so I wanted to know why, and like didn't really understand. But like obviously at the time I was really depressed and was going through a lot mentally, not in the best place. And I read that like because of that they are more attracted to you because you have negative energy around you, which was terrifying because there's not anything I could do about that at the point. Like I was doing my best to be happy, but like ultimately struggling with mental health and stuff. So that was terrifying to learn about. But at that point I was just like, this doesn't seem like a ghost anymore. This seems like something really evil and something I don't want to experience anymore. So after that happened, where I started to hear more of like hooves walking towards me, that next day I woke up because it ended the same way, where like it felt like something was crawling on me. It would have pressure like near my chest for a little bit, and then it would kind of like ease up, and I was able to calm myself down and eventually fall asleep. When I woke up that morning though, however, I looked in my full body mirror that was right at the end of my bed, and what I saw made me nauseous. I called my mom in, like screaming for my mom to come in. And she came in, and she was shocked too. And she didn't really say anything. And she called my uncle, who was also next door, and my grandma and my grandpa, who were in the same house, to come over. Nobody really knew what to say. There were handprints on my mirror, but the handprints weren't human hands. And I know that this sounds like so ridiculous, and this is why for like a long time I didn't really talk about it, because I know that it sounds crazy. Like I'm fully aware that sounds fake, but somebody out there is going to relate to this, so I think it's important to talk about. The palm print of the hand was like that big, and the fingers were like twice the size of mine, long, like lengthwise, and they were all crooked, and it was like somebody had put like a Halloween outfit on costume and like used the like fake hands to like make these creepy handprints on the mirror. but they had fingerprints is the thing. Like, it's not like my sister was playing a prank on me and like took, I don't know, some type of like paint or something and like painted on like handprints. Like, these legitimately like had fingerprints, and it was terrifying, and they didn't know what to do either. So I took that mirror down. No more mirror by my bed. I was terrified. Like, I didn't want to see that again. At that point, it made it real for me, because until that point I had like very much so convinced myself that I was going crazy because of the medication that I was on. But seeing my mom's reaction, my grandpa's reaction, my grandma's reaction, my uncle's reaction to it, like, even more solidified the fact that this is not fake. This is a real thing that's happening, and it's scary, and it's scared to them. They are scared. And if they're scared, I'm scared, because they're supposed to be the strong ones. After I took the mirror down, things started to feel a little bit better. My room didn't feel so heavy anymore. And that night, it was time for bedtime. I was really anxious at this point, because even though there wasn't a mirror there, I was still convinced that something was going to be happening, and I just didn't want to go through it anymore. And so I went to bed that night, and to my surprise, I didn't hear the footsteps. I didn't feel anything pushing down on me while I was in bed. I didn't feel anything. And I cannot tell you and explain enough, like, the amount of relief that came over me from not having to feel that for one night. I was finally like, okay, that was the issue. Like, I don't know why I thought that was the issue, but me removing the mirror, that solved the problem. We're good. It's not going to happen anymore. And it didn't happen that night. And I was so relieved. Like, I can't even explain like how relieved I was to just not have to deal with that for one night. I wear contacts now, but at the time I was wearing contacts and glasses. So like, I would wear contacts during the day, glasses at night. So I would take my glasses off and set them on my nightstand. And like, without them, I can't really see anything. I remember going to bed feeling relieved that I was given a break for a little bit. And at the time it was winter, so I had this like space heater in my room that was pretty small. And I woke up to Charlie barking in the middle of the night, like barking at the end of my bed, like barking really loud, wouldn't stop. And so I freak out, like sit up, I'm like fumbling for my glasses. I put my glasses on, and there's smoke in my room. Like, my room is on fire. I'm like coughing. I grab Charlie, and I'm like looking around, like what's on fire? Like, what's on fire? I need to put it out. And I can see in my space heater, it was like a little black one, there was a ball, like a round ball of fire in my space heater. And so I freaked out. I run out, I open my door, and like smoke is billowing out of my room at this point, like billowing out, like something was on fire. And I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like, I've never had a house fire, so like I don't know. The smoke was pouring out of my room. I scream bloody murder, literally running down the hallway to get my mom out of bed because I think the house is on fire. And she freaks out. She jumps up, she grabs my sister, who at that point was sleeping in her room because we were just all pretty on edge about everything that was going on. We go into my room, and when I initially had run out of my room, I tried to turn my light on. I don't know, it was like out of habit because I couldn't see anything, and it didn't turn on. So I flipped it off and like ran out. But when my mom came in, I like ran in, she like flipped the light switch on, and it came on. The light came on. There was no fire. Smoke was still billowing out of my room, but nothing was on fire. The space heater that I thought I saw a ball of fire in was perfectly fine. It was still running. Nothing was going on. It was perfectly fine. But there was very real smoke dumping out of my bedroom, like my room had been on fire. And had Charlie not been in there, my toy poodle, I would have died of smoke inhalation, like literally like a house fire. But nothing was on fire. We had electricians come out to make sure that there wasn't a fire on the walls. Like, literally nothing. Nothing was melted. Nothing had burn marks on it. Nothing at all. So at this point, I'm convinced that I'm going to die in this house. Like, it's going to kill me. That's what it seems like. Had Charlie not been in there, I would not be alive. So obviously this thing wants me to die. And I was absolutely terrified of that. So like, after that happened, I was done sleeping alone. I thought that I could do it. I was done. So from that point on, my sister and I were sharing a room and a bed with my mom because we were just terrified to be alone. And I thought, you know, maybe me not being alone is a good thing. Like, maybe that will help with things. I don't know. And for a while, it was just like us experiencing the normal stuff, like hearing footsteps behind you, whatever. But then one night, one evening, my sister was getting ready. We were both in band. She was getting ready for a band concert. And we wanted to take some pictures before of like, because we got like ready in dresses and like our hair was done and stuff. So we wanted to take pictures of that. And so My sister and I are standing in the hallway in front of my bedroom, and we go to like snap some selfies together. We didn't even think to look at them. We go to the band concert, we come back, and we're like, oh, like I want to see those pictures so that we can like post them. And there was something peering out of my room, and it had like holes for eyes, like black holes for eyes. It was like a little silhouette peeking out of my room, and I just felt helpless at this point. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? Like, I'm a kid. I don't have religion. I know some people say like, oh, religion will help with that. Like, it'll like ward away the bad spirits. I didn't have that. Maybe it knew that. I don't know. But I was just so helpless. It just felt like never ending. And I had anxiety so bad because of everything that we were constantly experiencing in the house. So anyway, that night, Courtney and I, my mom was gone. Courtney and I decided to sleep in my room together. So we'd gone in there, gotten ready for bed, and I had realized that I forgot to turn some lights off in the house. And so Courtney offered to go turn them off. I could hear her walk out to turn the lights off that I had missed, and she came running back. I could hear her footsteps and her like freaking out. And while she was freaking out, I could hear things falling off the walls. So as she was running back to my room with the lights off, things were falling off the walls as she passed them. And she said it felt like somebody was walking behind her, like running behind her. And she slammed the door, and like we were fine, but it's like we were being tormented every single day. It was literally terrifying. It was a nightmare, like living a literal nightmare. So like that next morning, my mom was there, and I like was gonna go run errands with her, and Courtney was gonna stay in the house. And like typically in the daytime, it wasn't as scary, and maybe that's just because it's daytime. I don't know. It wasn't as scary to stay there in the daytime, so Courtney felt fine with staying there. But she woke up to the sound of somebody laughing in the house, like hysterical laughter. I'm thankful I didn't get to hear that, but I feel really bad that she did. So like when I got back from running errands with my mom, she just dropped me off and she was gonna leave, and my grandma and my sister were there now at that point because my sister had called my grandma after that happened because she was so scared. They were both terrified. They explained that they were like in the living room together after my sister had called my grandma over, and that they could hear laughter from like every direction around them, like a man laughing, like hysterical laughter. We were scared. I think everybody was kind of at their wits' end with everything that was going on. Courtney, my sister, she had her friend over again that night. And keep in mind, like, I'm not the type of person to play with a Ouija board. I never have, and I never will. However, I think Courtney and her friend wanted some more answers, and so maybe not the smartest thing, they made a homemade Ouija board. And I was home, and I didn't know that they were doing this, and they took it upstairs into the attic and started to ask it questions. So they asked, like, is anyone here? And keep in mind, I was not there for this, so this is me like retelling their story, their experience with this. They asked if anyone was there. The little piece moved to yes. Like, I don't know what prompted them to ask this, but they asked if it was a boy, and it moved to yes. And then with like almost everything like actually really crazy happening to just me, they asked, do you want my sister? And it moved to yes. That was scary. I guess at that same time, she had put her cell phone on the first basement step and closed the door with the video and audio recording to see if they could get anything while they were doing that, which in my opinion is not a good idea, but they did it anyway. When they went down to get the phone, they listened back. They couldn't see anything because it was pitch black, but they could hear like footsteps up to the phone, and then like if somebody were to like scrape it against the concrete a bunch, but that was it. I was still trying to convince myself. I was just in denial. I was trying to convince myself that none of this was real, but then Courtney and her friend coming to me and telling me that they did this Ouija board thing and that it said it wanted me. Like, that's something I already knew, but I didn't need it like confirmed. So I was terrified to be there, like an anxious mess literally every single day. Like a few other things that happened like throughout me living there, like my grandma would come over a lot, and so one day she was there in the kitchen making me and my sister something to eat. I think it's for breakfast, and if you're facing the sink, your back is against the basement, like your back is to the basement door. And so she had like made something for us and then was gonna walk back to like near my room, I think, to tell me that it was ready. And she said when she turned her back to the kitchen and to the basement door, she heard something growl in her ear, and she like yelped and like turned around and there wasn't anything there. But anyway, like she told me that the food was ready, and so I was like, okay, I just have to go to the bathroom. And so I walked across the hall to use the bathroom, was gonna walk out, and on the way out you pass the sink in the like vanity mirror. As I passed it, I saw out of like the corner of my eye like my own face turn towards me and watch me walk away. And from that point on, I covered every single mirror in the house with like a towel or a blanket or something. Like, I didn't want to see mirrors anymore because I was so scared of what I would see in them. Not a normal thing to do. I was convinced myself that I was like having a mental break or something because of how absolutely crazy it seemed to just even say out loud. Like, even just saying it now, it sounds crazy. It was legitimately happening. It wasn't just happening to me, like everybody else was there and experiencing these things too. So like the majority of this activity happened within the first like 2 to 3 years, I would say, of us living there. The height of everything was my room catching on fire. Obviously I'm still here, so like I didn't die, but things started to happen pretty regularly from that point on out. I didn't sleep in my room by myself anymore. Yeah, and I guess, like, obviously I wish I could have moved out, but that wasn't really an option as a kid. And like, your mom had just paid so much money for this house and like to remodel it and stuff. We were kind of stuck there, so we kind of just had to deal with it as it happened. So like, kind of a conclusion, I don't know if that house is still haunted. I had a falling out with my mom, so I left there at 16. Yeah, I haven't been there in a very long time. I lived there from 12 to 16, had awful experiences. The house was sold a few years later, and people live there, and I haven't heard anything. I'm happy that I'm not there anymore. My experiences there are some that I wish I hadn't gone through. For a long time I was like, oh, it'd be so fun to like catch a ghost, it'd be so fun to see one. No, I don't want to do that again, especially living somewhere. I think I would visit like a haunted place or whatever to like see what's up, but like to actually want to stay overnight in a haunted place, like, I'm good. I had my time. My time is done with that. I don't ever want to do that again. But yeah, I thought I would talk about it because I know that's really interesting to me. I like hearing people's experiences if they've had anything like this happen. I wish it wouldn't have happened to them, but like, it's very interesting to hear about. And I don't think people talk about their experiences enough for the fact that they think they're going to be called crazy, because I know that's why I didn't. But yeah, so let me know what you thought. If you've had a similar experience, like, I would love to know about it, because apparently it's more common than I thought. And I haven't really had anything that crazy happen since. I've moved plenty of times and it's been pretty normal. So I'm pretty convinced that whatever was there is just in that house and didn't follow me. And I'm very thankful for that. So yeah, if you like just these kind of sit down videos, let me know. I love just being able to talk about things. So if that's something that you like, that's great. And we could do it more. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want, and definitely tell me if you've ever had anything spooky happen, because I love to hear about it. Thank you for watching.